Hello, everybody, and welcome to the channel. I'm joined today by Michael from Bad Goblin Games, and we are going to be talking about his upcoming Kickstarter for Trailer Park Warlords of the Apocalypse. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today, Michael.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
So, right off the bat, it's an apocalyptic skirmish game. Do you want to give us a little bit of a chat about what the world looks like? Because the name is not the sort of thing you would expect to hear generally with trailer parks.
Yeah, so we knew that we wanted a skirmish game, and we decided pretty early on we were going to do a post-apocalyptic theme, though we didn't really want like a straight post-apocalyptic game. We wanted something that was a little more on the bizarre side, the not so serious side of things. We took some inspiration from some old tabletop role-playing games, Gamma World, Metamorphosis Alpha, more recently something like Mutant Crawl Classic, stuff like that. And for anyone familiar with those games, they're definitely more of the beer and pretzels. Some crazy stuff can happen. So that's really where the name came about. We wanted something that would kind of grab people and make them pay attention. And so it's a little silly. It's a little maybe a little ridiculous, but that's exactly what we wanted.
Which makes sense. I mean, one of the very first rules that you hit in the game is the rule of cool, where it does say it's a game that includes talking plants and fire-breathing chickens. So don't get too sort of caught up in things and just enjoy yourself, which is always a good sign, I feel. Unlike a lot of other post-apocalyptic sort of games where it's something that's happened relatively recent to us, so that there's been a massive war and then the people have risen from the ashes and tried to cobble their civilization back together. There's a massive period of peace and expansion into the universe by humanity before it all goes horribly sideways, which allows you to add a whole other level of technology into your post-apocalyptic world.
Right, and that's kind of why we had that for the backstory a little bit. You don't want to go too deep into the weeds with the backstory of this stuff because for most people it doesn't really matter. Though that's why we kind of injected that. That way we could have some kind of plausible explanation for intelligent animals and the robots that self-thinking or artificially intelligent robots, that sort of thing. So it's some people it doesn't matter, though. Sometimes you want a little bit of plausibility with that stuff.
Yeah. And the idea is people will be picking up a set of rowdies belonging to one trailer park warlord or another and fighting for turf or for resources or whatever else they happen to be sent out to be fighting for, I suppose. Whatever the warlord deems necessary. A whole box full of Twinkies.
Yeah. So basically, we kind of needed a situation where we could make sure that we had these gangs competing. We didn't really want to put it in a city setting because it's not boring. It's kind of common. So we wanted something a little bit different, and that's kind of where the trailer park theme came from. Now, with that said, even though we're stressing trailer parks, and these are giant trailer parks, these are trailer parks that are hundreds of miles, thousands of miles in size. Because of their size, the assumption is they've kind of swallowed up everything in their path. So we certainly use a lot of trailers in our games, though you can really use anything. We're making a board right now that's just a railroad, basically a rail yard. You could have a theme park, carnivals, strip malls, small towns, whatever you want. And so these warlords basically rule over these trailer parks. Like you said, they're fighting for resources, turf, whatever they want. And the miniatures that you're playing are basically part of one of these gangs. So, and it's all kind of scenario driven. So it's not necessarily just kind of putting your miniatures out there and fighting it out. We're definitely trying to make it a scenario based game.
I think small scale skirmish games really excel at telling a narrative story whenever you've got groups of people and development within your little world. So can you one day become the warlord, or will you forever be just the poor rowdy who's being sent out to fetch and carry for him? So that's always good to see. The system itself has some interesting mechanics. First of all, you've gone with a D10 system, but then it also has a fair bit of flexibility in there with both additional dice or dice being removed, as well as modifiers to the dice roll as well. Was there a particular choice that you decided to stay clear of the D6? Was it just because you have such a, I suppose, expansive group of rowdies that can be fighting that you needed a bit more permutations in there? Or
Yeah, I think the D10 allows a bit more flexibility with things, and you can certainly use a D6. So we had a previous Kickstarter that we started with D6s, and we eventually moved to D10s just because it gave us a bit more flexibility. So part of it was the flexibility, and part of it was we really understood the math behind the D10s. We've spent a lot of time with the math and looking at various numbers of dice versus various target numbers. So we had I guess we think we have a better understanding of the math with the tens and just the flexibility that that you get with it.
Yeah. Another thing that really struck me when I seen it was the activation, because it's not a straight you go, I go.
Right.
Instead, everybody gets to activate, but the order in which you activate comes down to a bit of luck on the dice roll, but then also how much you really want to activate that, because you've got a bidding mechanic worked into it as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So we really like the initiative bidding mechanic, just because it is kind of a game within a game, and it makes you think about the order in which you want to accomplish things, within the game, right? So if you have 5, gang members on there, you really have to look at that situation and see if there's something you definitely need to do first. In which case you would obviously bid like a high die, but there are also circumstances in which you want your opponent to go first, and then you're going to maybe bid something on the lower side. So it's kind of a game within a game, and we think it adds a bit. It's a level of strategy or a level of friction that you don't necessarily get with just a straight, even alternating, or just I'm moving all mine, then you're moving all yours.
Yeah.
So we like that little added bit of gamesmanship.
Yeah. You can really try and psych your opponent out as well, I suppose. If they think that you really desperately want to activate a specific model to do a specific thing, and then just throw them a curveball by bidding low and going somewhere else, and then deal with your plans in a whole other way. So I like that. The game within the game sort of style of activation just really appeals to me on so many levels, because it breaks up the flow of just the back and forth when you don't know who's going to double activate, or you don't know where the activations are going to come from. You really have to think about the whole strategy more than just going, well, I know I'm going to get the next turn and go first, and therefore I can just set everything up this turn. You can never be that aware that's happening.
It's a really simple mechanic, though it adds, I think, a lot of depth to a game. So that's what we like. We don't want something that's really complex. If you can have something that's simple to achieve, it adds a good level of depth to a game. That's really what you want, I think.
And speaking about depth, the gangs themselves, there is a shockingly large amount of depth in the generation of your gang, because you've got these disparate groups, but then they can have all sorts of additional mutations or metamorphisms or that sort of thing. So do you want to give us a bit of a breakdown of how you go about putting a gang onto the table?
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of typical, and that's going to be a point driven game, and there's pros and cons with having point driven games. Though it's probably if you're not playing a historical game, it's probably unfortunately the best way of getting at least the illusion of even sides. And so basically you're going to pick one of your gangs, and we're going to have 10 to 12 gangs that are kind of predefined within the book.
Okay.
Though we're really encouraging players to come up with their own gangs. So own gang names, symbols, backstories, that sort of thing. And so you'll basically build out your gang, and they can consist of regular humans, with powers, or they refer to as mutants, intelligent plants, intelligent animals, and robots. Um, and if you have, say, a mutated human or an animal, they're going to have mutations. Robots are going to have mechanisms, and plants are going to have morphologies. There's some of those that are kind of, and I just kind of refer to them as powers, just to kind of keep one simple word. And some of those are kind of reskinned to a degree, though there's a lot that are really unique to each respective power. Now, I don't want to say the unique thing. I hate using the word unique with any kind of game. The one thing that, even though this is kind of point driven, one thing we wanted to do was we wanted to kind of have a bit of variation in there, or a bit of randomness. So, for example, if you're creating a mutated human, you will start with one what we call beneficial mutation. Okay. And beneficial is kind of a gray area sometimes. There are definitely some that are extremely beneficial, and there are some that are kind of beneficial. There are some that if you use the wrong way, it can hurt you. So there's a bit of a gray area with some of these, but you're going to start with, say, one beneficial mutation. You then have the option of taking more. So that first beneficial mutation you get is going to be unique. So you're not going to go through and just pick which one you want. It's going to be a random mutation that's issued to you. Okay. If you then take more, the number that you get, as well, if they're good or bad, will be random as well. So we wanted to kind of an homage to the old school approach to role playing games, in which it wasn't you weren't just going by and picking everything you wanted. There's a bit of randomness involved. Yeah,
it's all well and good having an extra hand, but if that extra hand is coming out of the back of your deck, is it that handy at all? May or may not be.
Right.
With all of the various types, then, whenever you're building a gang, does it become a gang of mutants, a gang of awakened, a gang of robots, or can you sort of pick and choose within your Warlords gang? Are there sort of mixes?
Yeah, there are definitely mixes. So within the gangs that we're creating, there are some that are really exclusive. So we have a gang called Roadkill, and that's all animals. So, and they don't allow anyone else in their gang. There's another one that's basically just all robots, so they don't allow anyone other than robots in their gang. Though there are some that are definitely mixed. Like we have one called the Fellowship of the 10 Star, and that would be like an example of a mixed gang. So if you were playing Fellowship of the 10 Star, you could bring in anybody you wanted, any background. Though again, you don't have to use the gangs we have in the book. We really encourage players to kind of come up with their own as well.
Yeah. So, getting onto the Kickstarter, then, obviously the book is going to be a big part of it. At the start of the book, it actually suggests that you can play this in smaller scales, even though it's designed for 28 mil. So it's very figure agnostic. But you're also planning to do a range of miniatures as well.
Yeah. So we have 4 sets of miniatures planned in the core Kickstarter. Each of them will consist of 8 miniatures. So there's going to be one that basically is pretty much all robots, one that's all animals. So Roadkill is one. That's the all animals. We have Ralph, which is the Robot Android Liberation Front. So that's all robots. We have Fellowship of the 10 Star, and that's kind of a mixed gang. So anything really goes in that one. So there'll be 4 gang. Oh, the Bubbas as well. Sorry, and that's more of a true trailer park kind of gang. So it's like one big family. That's the gang. It's just one family. So that's more of a humans and mutants kind of only gang. So they're all that's what's in the core Kickstarter, and we have stretch goals for 4 additional gangs. And there'll be plants in there, more animals, because the animals are really what seems to be the popular
square with
all the ones
launcher.
We're doing. Yeah, I mean, of all the miniatures we're doing, the animals really seem to get the best response. You don't have to use our miniatures. We'd certainly love it, though. If you have miniatures that you use that you already have, or you want to bring them in from a different game, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Yeah, or people can pick them up and use these miniatures in other existing games as well. Because
Oh yeah,
the nice thing about the post-apocalypse is there's always room for more miniatures. Always
Oh
room for
yeah,
more
yeah.
miniatures. So
Definitely, definitely.
what's the plan for the Kickstarter then? How long is it due to run for?
Yep. So we're gonna kick it off on October 4, and we're scheduled to go for 30 days.
Mhm.
So we're still kind of kicking about the funding goal here a little bit. It seems like every time you think you're done, you go back and you look and you're like you kind of mull things over a little bit more until you hit that go button. Um, but that's the basic plan. So
it's always a tricky one to aim for.
yeah.
By the time you see this, folks, the Kickstarter should be live. And if it is, there'll be a little link below that you can click on. If it's not, there'll be a little link below that you can click on to be notified when it launches. But go and check it out. It's a fascinating world of mega city trailer parks, which I think everybody wants to explore, especially if you happen to be a squirrel with a rocket launcher. Thank you very much for your time, Michael, and good luck with your campaign as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Gerry. Take care.
If you've any questions, pop them below, folks, and I'll pass them across to Bad Goblin Games. Until next time, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.